Let's talk a little bit about fear of rejection today. I just want to give you one of the scenarios in which you might be afraid to reject somebody, but it might be the best thing for you in the long run. Let's say that you have a relationship going on. It may not be a romantic relationship. It could be a friendship, or it could be a family relationship with someone. You love them. You have a decent relationship where you get along. And some time pass, and they ask you to do something that you're not comfortable with, or something that they know goes against your core values. They ask you to compromise yourself to give them whatever this thing is. Now, 9 times out of 10, whatever it is they're asking for is really not that important. It's important to them at the time, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the price of tea in China. And it really is not an earth-shaking thing. It's something that could be done without. But they need you, your resources, your smarts, your money, whatever the case may be, to give them this thing. As I stated before, the majority of them already know that you don't agree with this, but they come and ask you anyway. You feel in your heart, relationships are based on compromise, which is true. But the thing is that you should draw some boundaries in regards to how far you're willing to compromise. And some of you look at how long you were with this person, or your connection with them, because you could be a parent, you could be a grandparent, and you're so afraid that this person's going to be upset with you and disappointed, or it's going to create some disagreement, that you go ahead and compromise yourself and you go ahead and give this person what they want anyway. And it could be anything. It could be a situation where you give them money for something, and they spend money on something that you don't agree with, that you know that might get them into trouble. Or you allow them to be associated with people that don't have good reputations that might get them into trouble. You let them in your house, that you let them spend time with them, that type of thing, instead of just putting your foot down and say, look, I don't agree with what you're doing, so I can't have you in here. But you're doing it for the sake of this relative. But deep down, under normal circumstances, if it was you by yourself, you wouldn't let those type of people in your house. You wouldn't let them in your life. And come to find out, these people might be involved in illegal activities, or they could have been running from the law. And all of a sudden, everything goes down, and that person that lives in the house with you, that relative, that person you care about, they get caught up in that foolishness too. And they may not have been the one who even committed the crime, but because they're associated with these people, they get involved in it. They wind up getting called downtown. They get subpoenaed to court. They get involved in the whole process, the whole criminal process, for no reason at all. And because it's your house, you get involved in it too, and it's just a whole bunch of wasted time at the end of the day. All this because you allowed people that you know that were no good in your house. And if you had not allowed them there in the first place, you wouldn't have had to go through all this. It could be a situation where you gave somebody some money, be it your husband, wife, or whatever, and you know that something is shady is going on because they've been acting very strange. They're not maintaining their hygiene as well as they should. Their work habits have been slipping. Their sleep patterns are messed up, and they're moody. Those are very common symptoms of some type of alcohol or drug dependency. But you give them money anyway. No questions asked. And usually when these people ask for money, it's not a little bit of money. It's quite a bit of money, because they probably owe their dealer. And if they don't hurry up and get the money, then it's their life. So you take money that you don't have. You're going into retirement funds. You're selling things. You're borrowing money from payday and cash advance places just to help this person out because you love them. Under normal circumstances, if you were alone, you wouldn't have to do all this because you already had your budget in place before they came along. So you guys see what I'm talking about here. You see what I'm talking about. These people are asking you to go above and beyond. And because you want to prove your loyalty to this person, especially if you know that they've had a checkered past and had a bad childhood, you want to show them the love that they never got. There's something that you got to understand. If you see somebody who has had a bad childhood, who has had a checkered past, and has never sought to get any help for those issues, and it's many, many years later, and they get involved with you, and they're always putting you in compromising situations or having you to go against your core beliefs, it's because they're trying to get you to prove yourself to them. They've never had that loyalty and that devotion to them. So they feel that the only way that they can get it from someone is to have them go outside of themselves, have them sacrifice for them. They believe that the only way that somebody can show love to them is by sacrifice. Most of the time, a lot of these people don't want these things from you. They're just doing it as a test to see how, and then once they get what they want, they be like, wow, this person really does love me. But because their programming is off, they don't know how to read social cues. They don't know how to understand emotions. They don't know how to manage emotions. And they do not know how to interpret the signs in the communication of true love. They don't understand that. So they think in their mind the only way that they can get somebody to show them that they love them is to emotionally manipulate them into doing something that they normally wouldn't do. So that way they can go out in the street and say that person really loves me because they did it for me and they didn't do it for anybody else. You guys see what I'm saying here? I know the program is really, really wacky. It's really funky energy and it's really off programming. It doesn't make any rational sense what they're doing, but it makes sense to them. And they spend their whole lives doing this because they have those unresolved issues from their childhood and their past. Their programming is off, their wiring is off, and it wouldn't have made any difference if it was you or if it was anybody else that came along. That's what they do with anybody they become attached to. So if you're one of those people, every time you turn around, you're making that sacrifice, first of all, understand that time's going to run out. It's going to be a matter of time before it's going to run out. Because I'm going to tell you something. Human beings, as natural creatures, we have what's called a tolerance level. We do. We have what's called a tolerance level. And once we've reached or exceeded that tolerance level, it's going to manifest itself in us physically. It's going to create so much stress that it's going to affect how our bodily systems perform. So the majority of us, before we even get to that point, or if we start experiencing those symptoms, we start reevaluating our circumstances, and then we're going to cut that. We're going to cut that shit off. We're going to cut it off. It doesn't matter if it's child, husband, wife, grandparent, whatever the case may be. You're going to start consider alternative sources for this person so they can ease off of you. That is, if they don't pass away first. And I hate to sound cruel, but sometimes that happens. There are people that I've heard of in my past that have just gone through it over and over and over again for a child, for a spouse, to the point where they didn't do any damage control, and all of a sudden you look up and they're dead, but the person who put them through all that bullshit is still running around here looking for somebody else to replace them. And I know this sounds cold-blooded, but it's the truth. How many people do you know have spent all their life running around here all reckless and a loose cannon, and all they've done is just leech off people emotionally? And a lot of those people they leached off of are no longer with us. But that person's still here. And because that person is so emotionally damaged, instead of trying to just handle things themselves because that person's not around, they're running around trying to find somebody to take their place. Take those responsibilities. Take those chances. because their level of selfishness is there. And they're not consciously selfish. They're unconsciously selfish because their programming is off. They never sought help for those internal issues. They're blinded. My mother used to call it maladjusted. I don't know if that's a real word or not. I'm going to look that up on Webster, but she used to say maladjusted all the time. She said they're maladjusted. And it's a 50-50 chance that they're going to change. That's the risk that you take. So if you're one of those people that just is constantly trying to dig someone out of a hole all the time, just for them to go into deeper ones all of the time, no, don't worry. If you don't stop doing it on your own volition, you're going to get stopped. But either way, it's going to stop. Now, are you going to do it while you're still here? Or is somebody else going to do it from above to shut you down so you won't do it anymore? You got to set boundaries, people. It's so important. That's the importance of setting boundaries. And don't be so afraid of that person being angry. You setting boundaries could probably be the best thing for them, because you'll probably be the only one to do it, and it might save their life. So with that being said, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a great day.